Hi everyone and welcome to your horoscope for the week of March the 28th, 2022. We have a really intense and strongly action-oriented sky. The predominant celestial conversations this week are going to be numerous conjunctions. It is not just the bigger power players in the sky that are going to be standing very close to one another, but also the dwarf planets and asteroids as well. And all of this packed into basically one hemisphere of the sky. So this is really significant. This is really motivating, animating, and it is also really complex. But we do have a lot of celestial help. We do have, symbolically speaking, a natural guidance system, a connection to nature, but nature within ourselves, our instincts, that is coming, of course, online symbolically, and we're feeling this more and more intensely, and this is of infinite help in a period such as this one. We also have a very strong new beginning oriented, new birth oriented Aries new moon taking place either on the 31st of March or the 1st of April, depending on where you are on the planet. In my geographic zone, it takes place on the 1st of April, so perhaps for me and everyone where I am, it is that much more significant because of the numerological charge of the number 1. Yet we can't forget that 31 also has a 1 in it, and perhaps it is that much easier, that much more delightful new energy with the 3 included, because 3 and 1 are 4, and that gives a certain kind of stability and easiness to it. Whereas on the 1st, it is much more like a leap of faith. It is much more like something totally new, which can go either way. So maybe there is a beginner's luck attached to it as well. But of course, either way, this new beginning or whatever takes birth under this energy might stay with us for quite a long time. And of course, you mustn't forget that this has a window of influence for the past 6 months, so the new beginning doesn't need to be immediate, but chances are this is Aries and Mercury is part of this energy. We might think it, feel it, one way or another it will be in our heads, Aries. So we become aware of it one way or another. Maybe we think it, maybe we concoct it, maybe we brainstorm it, we dream it. We also have a very strong Piscean energy and Aquarian energy, future-oriented. So one way or another it comes to us and we become aware of it. But for other people, this is also very quick energy, so it might be like an immediate new beginning. And another important element, as I said earlier, the Piscean energy is also heavily concentrated, especially before the new moon, because the moon will conjunct both Jupiter and Neptune in the sign of Pisces. So the past can deliver a contribution towards this new beginning or whatever is created at this moment. It can be either as a karmic help, it can either be support from someone who you have a karmic connection with, it can either represent a reward from the past, it can either represent you closing a chapter or something that has to do with the past, and that is followed immediately by a new beginning, by something fresh and new. But one way or another, the moon is our emotions, our feelings. It is basically the essence of our soul. Conjunct Jupiter, our faith. Conjunct Neptune, connection to source. Our dreams and intuition, our inner world. That does represent that either on the 30th or the 31st, we are invited to gaze into the past, but in a very conclusive way, either because something sources from there and it reminds us of the past, and this way we close it, or perhaps another seed of intention or something, an action that we may have taken in the distant past, at this time comes back to us. It reflects back at our lives to give us a stronger new beginning, or a more, let's say, prosperous or clear or whatever new beginning, as the moon will meet the sun a day after. At the very first of the week, there is still a strong tension in the sky because Mars is still squaring Uranus, and even though their square is starting to fade, the intensity of the energy is starting to die down. At the very beginning of the week, it is still enough. The sparks of conflict, the sparks of the Uranian expression, rebellion, revolution, Mars action, and war are still in the air. And that also represents that we are still in a danger period of natural calamities, earthquake, volcanic eruptions, accidents, hazards manifesting, and conflict and war and everything that has to do with Mars in Aquarius. So adversity playing out in the internet, online world, social connections, etc. So whatever happens next week is still pretty moving, still pretty shocking. It is still keeping us in a state of unease, better said. But there can still be some twists and turns of events. On one hand, because just after the new moon, as the moon leaves the conjunction with the sun, it meets the asteroid Pallas Athena, it meets planetoid Eris, goddess of discord, and that kind of tells me that there are going to be very important decisions, communications, because Mercury is also in that part of the sky, maybe travels, maybe delegations, plans being executed, and a mobilization in any way, sense, shape and form. And this will influence all of us, both individually and collectively. Collectively, we might be seeing important moves, decisions being made in this big tactical game and any other parts of the crisis and the conflict, including the financial ones. But individually, this is where we make that really, really important decision, or at least we think about it, we motivate ourselves, we get ready, Aries energy, bravery, courage, taking that momentum, seizing that big opportunity, doing the impossible gesture, the impossible thing. You know, this is where we truly tap into our inner strength, and our instincts, as I said at the beginning, are also really, really helpful, because Pallas Athena's presence in this part of the sky gives us a strong tactical advantage where we're simply connected to nature's internet, her infinite wisdom, her magnetism, the way she steers all of the wildlife and nature and everything on her surface. We also benefit from it, and basically that expression of energy cannot discriminate, because it is not just internal, but it is primal. It depends on the very, very core of the inner animal that we also are. And it is exactly this kind of energy that does miracles for introverts, for people with, let's say, like a debilitated Mars, a broken Mars, a lonely Mars, a Mars who doesn't believe in itself. This energy with Eris involved can give such an impulse, a spur of the moment, maybe a moment of insanity that can do miracles. Because for an introvert, insanity might look like having the courage to do something that a normal person can do with great ease. You know what I'm saying? So this energy can do a lot of big moves. And for anyone else who is not an introvert, who is usually a very brave and courageous person, this is a great empowerment. This is energy, including physical energy. The sun is out of Pisces. That means physical vitalization. That means physical strength. It means the desire to move around and invest energy into our desires. You know, the head. The head leads the entire body, the entire organism. So what the head desires in these moments, in these weeks, we might execute with great ease, with great energy, with great courage, with great ambition. Now, of course, the darker side of this energy is conflict, battles, speaking words that we might regret, awakening the inner warrior. This might also make us very, very irritated, frustrated, very, very edgy, irritable. But at the same time, all of this can be alchemized into excitedness and basically projecting our own excitedness, our own courage, our own thirst of life, basically, of being alive, onto other people. But the sun does combust, and the sun is extremely strong and powerful in the sign of Aries. So this is where it really depends on all of us. But fortunately, we have Pallas Athena there. That natural, tactical intelligence within our genes. Basically, the inner animal. Sometimes the head, steered by the gut, by the instincts, just knows the direction, the best choice, the best decision. This is where we will have to trust our heads, Mercury in the sign of Aries, and things will go quickly. These decisions, these actions, these moves can be very, very quick and spontaneous. And also Eris. Eris is the greatest rebel. Eris is basically the goddess who threw all of Olympus into total chaos by a very, very simple and yet magical gesture, the golden apple. What I'm saying here is that in this Aries season, and also next week included, we might truly surprise ourselves. This is where we might not really be aware of our own strength, and it will just manifest. So let's hope that this is the expression of the energy that we'll embody. And we must not forget the most important power player with this new moon and perhaps all of next week. It is actually Chiron. Whatever happens, it is about our deepest wound. Whatever happens is about our greatest fears. And this energy heals it. This energy regenerates it. This is where Neptune and Jupiter, the two kings, the two rulers of Pisces together, just one sign away, in the ether, in the spirit, in the soul within, they lend us the blessing, they lend us the power to forgive and the power to regenerate ourselves from within, because at least Neptune is in the third decan of Pisces, which is Scorpionic. It does represent the undoing of the self, but that also means the phoenix moment, the rebirth, when we truly arise from the ashes, and the moment when the phoenix is actually complete, whole, risen already from the ashes, and it becomes aware of its refreshed, renewed state, that is Aries, and the light of our consciousness, the sun, and also planet of the mind, Mercury, is in Aries. So perhaps for many of us, the rebirth happened overnight. Maybe the rebirth moment happened in a deep, deep dream sleep state that we had. Maybe it happened while we daydreamed. Maybe it happened while we played with our children. And it takes this Aries season, it takes this impulse of new beginning for us to become aware that we're already new, that we're definitely no longer the same person, no longer the same life, no longer even the same normality. Venus conjunct Saturn also next week and at the time of this new moon. So basically Venus, the heart, Venus, our deepest feelings and our sense of normality, of our value system, conjunct Saturn, reality check. Maybe it is that moment when we become aware that our hearts, our values, and our emotional configuration has profoundly changed. And with that, Saturn in Aquarius, our mindset, our way of thinking, our worldview, our philosophies have also profoundly changed. Perhaps it is next week when we feel it, but in a lived, in a most intimate, in a most personal way, on our own skins, the expression of, I think, therefore I am. Perhaps we just wake up very, very quickly, spontaneously to the fact that by changing our mindset, something that we have done in 2018, 2019, big time in 2020, and even on a hardcore level with the Gemini eclipses in 2021, and it is now in 2022, in this spring, in this moment, when we look in the mirror once more and we see a new reality, a new us, we see how physically that new mindset that we have been working on for so many years is now real. Our biggest problems, our biggest limitations, our biggest fears, our deepest sorrow, our biggest pain is no longer that unbearable, intimidating, frightening than it was perhaps 4 years ago. Our deepest wounds are no longer bleeding wildly, uncontrollably. We've changed a lot. And of course, this is where the universe is setting the stage. It shows us the mirror to tell us that many of us, or perhaps most of us, have become fully trained, while others veteran, spiritual warriors who fight with the spirit, of course, Pisces, Jupiter, Neptune in Pisces, others more with the mind, the intellect. I think, therefore I am, mind over matter, all of the Aquarian planets and energy configuration. And then there is Aries, the willpower. There is the natural born warrior. There is that element where my will, as in the will of a person, the will of a human being, the will of a creation, is also the will of the creator. Because if Aries is the first breath, well, the breath itself, the air that we breathe in, is the creator, and it breathes through us. It experiences itself through us. So of course, Pallas Athena in Aries, it has programmed, woven into our fabrics, the necessary programs that we need to tap into to survive. Aries, survival instinct. To succeed, to triumph, to fight our battles, and to have access instantly to the source's greatness. Jupiter and Neptune in the sign of Pisces. And all of our wounds, Chiron, are now lived experiences. Basically, it is Chiron, our wounds, that was our greatest trainer, our greatest teacher. That is so very in tune with Chiron's mythology. He was a centaur, he was Hercules or Aries' mentor, depending on the mythological area. So he was always a teacher, and he always taught through the lesson of humility. So if Aries embodies his most divine expression, the humble warrior, the trained, the disciplined warrior, the warrior who is led by the heart, well then Aries becomes invincible. And this Chiron is making us exactly that, invincible. And by the fact that the universe, this week at least, it kind of invites us to focus on our own personal lives and problems and stories and whatever we are doing. You know, this personal, fresh, new beginning or the preparation for it. Well, through whatever we do in our lives next week, that is our own gesture to fight for our futures and to fight for basically the future of our species. Whatever we project into the universe through our decisions, how we respect ourselves and how we respect the other, that will be our own fighting style, the way we individually, motivated, animated by the great divine, are going to be fighting just like an ant colony for our futures. Now let's get to more down-to-earth business, because there are other things happening in the sky. For example, the Venus-Saturn conjunction is also going to have a third member, Juno. Jupiter's wife, she symbolizes commitment and devotion. Saturn in itself is also all about commitment. And Venus is the heart, our value sphere. So this will give us the answer one way or another through another person, Aquarius, through our own contemplation, reflection, or through any other synchronistic mean. We will find out if something, someone that we need to take with us into our future as Aquarius is worth the time, Saturn, worth the effort, worth the love, Venus, worth the feelings, worth the money, worth whatever is important for us personally. But of course, those relationships, those connections, friendships, acquaintances, anything that has to do with our social sphere, Aquarius, that survive this conjunction are going to be fortified. This is where they receive the blessing of all of these planets, Venus, Juno, and Saturn. Long-term stability, commitment, and Venus, love ultimately, pleasure, love, satisfaction, being happy with the people you have in your life. But of course, replace the word people with whichever astrological house of yours this falls into, so that is what you'll be either happy with, or if you find that you are not satisfied, not happy, Mars is there. Mars is also conjunct, so you will take action. Pluto is gonna sextile the moon this week, so that Pluto is, termination, transformation. Something turns to something else, a different state, a different way of expression, or a total termination turns into a memory. And the moon is the soul of our feelings, so we will have a very, very strong emotional impulse, Pluto, the power, and we will take action. Vesta is also in this part of the sky, so whatever we do at this moment, as in next week, it might feel fated. There might be a certain sacredness to it. We might be feeling as if we are divinely inspired and guided, and this gives us a sense of trust. And Aquarius, the mental sphere. And when the mental sphere finds it easy to trust, that is power. That is a strong advantage. Then later on in the week, we also have the Sun conjunct Mercury in the sign of Aries. And of course, Chiron is also exactly conjunct, so part of this conjunction. So this does represent a healing, a regeneration of our wounds. It can also represent a projection of them. Of course, the worst case scenario is projecting hate and basically becoming the aggressor. So when our wounds turn us into aggressors, worse than the person that wounded us. This is the worst possible expression of this energy, and this is a conjunction. This is really up to you how it manifests. This isn't like the sky or anything is controlling you or influencing you. This is basically your true inner self, the head, Aries. And the most simple example is when, a parent beats the child because they were also disciplined and beaten when they were a child. This is the most rudimentary example of how this can play out. But the higher, most elevated example is when we see another person with the same wound as we had or still have, and we project healing. We project our alchemical work and wisdom, the way we alchemized our wound. Mercury, for example, the words that we say are pure lived experience, and they are healing because it is our own healing that we share. It is something so intimate, as if we are giving, symbolically, energetically, Aries speaking, blood to the other person from our own being. Words of consolation, words of courage, inspirational words which raise morale. Mercury in the sign of Aries, just like how commanders, military commanders, have to keep the spirit of their men, of their fighters, as high as possible. That is profoundly healing. That is profoundly motivational. That is the most beautiful example of Chiron. Because you don't just give a little bit of your own essence and a little bit of your own mind, Mercury, but you also give the intent, the sheer desire of benevolence for that other person. And that is sacred. Chiron is sacred. He became an immortal constellation as a reward for everything that he has done. This week, all of us, one way or another, will also become a constellation. Maybe we will have an eternal memory of something that we did. And if it is a healer position that we will embody, or fighting for a truly noble cause, another expression of Aries, the spiritual warrior, or the humanitarian warrior, or the good Samaritan, etc., etc., and if that becomes an eternal memory, then we will have +1 great sense of pride of something that we have done in this incarnation. But if we choose to become aggressors, violent, etc., well, that is self-explanatory how it will symbolically reward itself. So getting back to the Sun and Mercury conjunction, well, one way this energy can manifest is, of course, angry words. Sun can represent, especially in Aries, ego, self-centeredness, selfish words, for example, I want, I need, everything is about me, everything is about my plan, my desire, and anyone who gets in my way, Aries, out. They will definitely be charged. Charged as in headbutted. But the highest expression of this energy, well, it is being clear with our intent, our desire, our want, our need. Having like that clarity in our heads. We might not know what's going on around us. We might not know what's going on in the world. We might not know most things, but if we do know what's in our head, if we do know what we desire, sometimes that's all we need. And this is definitely going to be a week like that, when anything that we do not know, we don't care about, and we will use everything that we do know to get where we need to be, or to adapt, or to do something very important. And naturally, this action can represent new project, business, everything that has to do with creativity, everything that has to do with work, with travels, with making appointments, signing even contracts. Mercury, that is when it's instant. That is when there's a big inspiration, spur of the moment, and the contract is signed, the business is completed, handshake, all of that. As I said, the instinct rules, and many times businessmen make the best deals out of sheer instinct. Now, it is absolutely true that all of this energy takes place under Saturn squaring the North Node in the sign of Taurus, which does mean that it's not easy. Even if we have all the courage, all that inner strength, all the motivation, that wild, airy spirit, none of this is very, very easy, because we need to stay at least on a tolerable level rational. We cannot give in totally into our dreams and fantasies, but neither into our instincts, especially if the instinct wants to risk everything. No, we need to stay acceptably rational. And acceptably means we are our own judges in this. But Saturn does require diligence, Saturn does require patience, Saturn does require effort even, and in Aquarius it has to be intelligent. It has to be where we use our rationality and our down-to-earth thinking to solve things. And Saturn can also represent, if we are not able to do this, we surely have a friend or someone in our life that is Saturnian in nature. As in very, very clear, rational, down-to-earth. So even if we are not like that, it's not really a problem as long as we have the wisdom, Saturn again, to listen. So this is definitely one of those weeks when we make a big move, a plan, a business, a deal, a contract, or anything like that. Well, on one hand, North Node in Taurus, it is long-term and it is important because Taurus rules the second house, money. But not just our monthly income, it rules everything that has to do with money and our material lives and our relation to money. So this can be a big, big move. For example, for some people, including me personally, it's moving house. So yes, it's new, it's blessed, it's karmic, the strength is there. And even if life itself, reality itself, doesn't pose very many difficulties, still, that Saturn, that inner Saturn, we need to be diligent, we need to think long term, and we need to analyze everything that is needed for physical stability. / listen to someone's really good advice. But for others, there is gonna be some karmic obstacle or some inconvenience or delays or taking longer than anticipated. For others, it's shorter than anticipated, and the crisis of time is the bigger side of the problem. So this is how Saturn challenges, but it also rewards. These challenges that we might have in our lives right now, blockages, limitations, whatever, they're not really meant to stop us, keep us in place. They're just meant to provide us, like, with the lesson that we have learned right now, with the tattoo almost like, with the memory of this life experience, how much effort and intelligence, Aquarius, we needed to invest in order to make it, in order to overcome the problem. So these problems are actually destined, designed by divine to be overcome, to be, surpassed, to be quantum leaped. But we need to embody in something, in at least one area of life, a certain psychological configuration of ours, which represents our very, very best self. But we have a secret ally, because Neptune, the symbol of the divine source, in its own sign of Pisces, where it is extremely strong and infinite, mysterious, it has no limits, it has no bounds, it doesn't have to respect physical reality at all. The soul is limitless. That's Neptune. Sextiling the North Node. Now, a sextile is divine inspiration. It does require some work, some strength, some investment. It doesn't come to you passively. It does require something. Sometimes it actually requires you to not do a specific thing or action. Other times it requires you to stay simply motivated. In this particular case, it does require you to stay faithful, to stay hopeful, to believe in the infinity of the universe, in the possibility of miracles, in the benevolence of the divine, because this frequency of belief, this frequency of knowing and simply living and breathing in the knowledge that the universe is conspiring in the now, in the present, in your favor, this can actually cheat in the most loving and in the most best sense possible. North Node in Taurus, physical reality. It can make things 10 times easier. It can make everything, even the hardships, look like a game, look like, just like a game of chess you're playing with the universe. It can actually turn into fun. And when there is that fun, that fantasy, the Neptunian element, yes, the carrot on the stick, but it makes it so interesting. That is one way how to overcome anything that Saturn can throw at us. For artists, this is the biggest blessing. If you're an artist or spiritualist or anyone who is into the Piscean sphere, counselor, psychologist, artist of any kind, astrologer, mystic, anything, even if you're just simply interested in any of this, this is a big blessing for you, because whatever is going on right now in your life, especially, Taurus, materially speaking, what are you guided towards value-wise, materially-wise, income-wise perhaps? This is the Neptune, the carrot on the stick, that is guiding you internally or externally. It is guiding you somewhere, and that somewhere might be revealed to you around the 12th of April, when Neptune meets Jupiter in the sky. While for others, perhaps later on in the year, but this might be a very, very important year for everyone equally. Now, of course, there is going to be doom and gloom as well. There is going to be also fear and hysteria and big fated karmic moments and a lot of negotiations, a lot of complications, a lot of wool over our eyes. But I choose, this week at least, not to include that into my horoscope, because that's not going anywhere. But our hopes and dreams and our celestial empowerment and moments when the universe actually lives through us in a very literal sense, well, those are rare. So let's not let whatever is going on outside ruin those most sacred moments for us in our lives. So this concludes this week's horoscope. Thank you so much for listening. All I can say is that use this really, really powerful and rare Aries new moon well. Because let's say even if you're totally lost, even if you feel that way, the chaos of being lost can create something amazing, can create something magical. Sometimes hazard is the best mother, the best creator. So let's use this opportunity and use whatever the universe gives us to work with. Let's embody our most practical Aries, natural Taurus, faithful Pisces, and intelligent Aquarius selves in order to truly make the very, very best of this energy. This is where, yes, it's not easy, yes, in so very many ways it is frightening, but this is where there's the sky covered in dark clouds, and there's almost thunder, and the wind is beginning to blow really intensely, so we know what's coming. But there are still holes in the clouds, and sometimes the sun really, really intensely shines through, so that is the hope. And this week, well, this might be one of those rarer weeks when actually it's not just a small hole letting the rays of the sun, the optimism, hope, and creativity through, but maybe it's actually half of the sky. So we can also embrace the sunshine, we can also embrace the light. So this is where, when the sky is half cloudy and half clear, it really, really depends on which side we look at. And ultimately, both Jupiter and Neptune in the sign of Pisces are inviting us to embody this lesson that very many times in life and in this earthly existence, everything is really about a matter of perspective. So thank you again for listening. Thank you for being here. If you'd like to help my work and my channel, you can donate in the PayPal link in the description below. Wishing everyone a blessed new moon next week. And let the fires of Aries keep the inner fire burning very strongly inside of you. Until next time, bye for now.